Welcome to the Airvine University. I'm Chris White, Principal Systems Engineer here at Airvine. In this module, I will go over the Airvine mobile app. The Airvine mobile app can be installed on either Android or iOS devices and can be used to manage, monitor, and troubleshoot the Airvine WaveTunnel and WaveCore products. To begin with, I will locate the app in the App Store, download and install the app, then log into the WaveTunnel network. Okay, so let's open the Play Store. This is an Android device, and so I opened the Android Play Store. For iOS, you would open the Apple App Store. And on the bottom of the screen, you'll see a search icon. We'll go to the search option and type in Airvine Mobile, all one word, lowercase. And you can see underneath the sponsored links, there's the Airvine mobile app. I'll click on that and install. And once this is installed, then we'll open up the app. And we'll get a pop-up that says, allow Airvine to access this device location. So I will say while using the app. And we'll see that we're connected to my SSID for the network. I want to connect to a WaveTunnel network. And so I'm going to click down here on Select Wi-Fi. Once I clicked on Select Wi-Fi, I can see a listing of the SSIDs that are broadcasting in my area. You'll see a :40 and :50. Those are my WaveCore devices, and I could log into those with this app, but I'm going to log into my WaveTunnel network, which I have previously configured, and that's the AVP_ViNet_root network. So I'll click on that SSID, and now you can see that I'm connected but have no internet access. This is an Android. And so I'll get a little drop down here in a second. And that's going to say, this network has no internet access. Do you want to stay connected? Now that I'm connected to the correct SSID, I can go into the upper left corner here and click on the back arrow to get into my app again. And you can see that I'm connected to the correct SSID. So now I'm going to click on Connect and enter my credentials. This is a lab network and not a secured network, and so my password is just password. And now I'm in to the app, and I can see the dashboard, the application dashboard. And on the bottom of the network, I can see all my matrix. I can also see monitoring, settings, and events. And so in the next sections, we'll be going through each of these, showing you how to do the monitoring, management, and troubleshooting for this WaveTunnel network. The monitoring section of the Airvine mobile app contains information on WaveTunnel, troubleshooting tools, Ethernet ports, device status, and management Wi-Fi. From the WaveTunnel node, I can see information that I have configured in my setup of the WaveTunnels. This is my root, and I have the leaf type set as leaf. It should be root. And the network ID I have configured as ViNet. Node label is root. If I were to switch over to my leaf, you can see the settings and the labels that I've given to each one of these. And now if I wanted to look at the downstream of the root, I could click over to the downstream and see that the status of my downstream connection is enabled. The connection is connected to my leaf. I'm on channel 1. I could be on channels 1 through 6. For this connection, it is set automatically for me to channel 1. And my encryption is disabled, and that's a default setting. I could set that to enable and encrypt the link between the root and the leaf as needed. For my upstream traffic, you'll see that nothing is listed here since this is my root and there's no connection on my upstream. And on the downstream, you'll see a lot of information here. For the receive power, this is the receive power that the WaveTunnel will receive after the automatic gain control. And so a signal is sent, in this case from the leaf to the root, and is received by the antenna. From the antenna, that analog signal is transmitted to an AGC or automatic gain control that will either dampen or enhance that analog signal and convert it to digital. So that setting can really, the signal can be really anywhere from neg 90 up to neg 20. You see on here, I have a neg 18. So that's a very good signal because my two nodes are about a meter apart from each other. Really anything from neg 70 up to neg 20 is a very good signal for the receive power. Signal to noise ratio in this case is also very good. I have 26.75 dB listed. Anything between, say, 25 and 40 is going to be at the best rates and will allow you to get the best throughput. The receive power over the air is an indicator of the receive power after the receive antenna, but before the AGC. And so that's a good indicator. I like to look at the receive power indication to see what the dBm is on that. It seems like it's the most valuable information. The transmit and receive MCS are the modulation and coding schemes. This can be anywhere from 1 to 10 for the wave tunnels. In this case, I have a 9 for the transmit and a 10. And so for this, just because I have a great connection, I expect my MCS to be very high. If you have drywall in between the wave tunnels or a distance, or maybe there's beam steering plus or minus 45 degrees, you can see some lower MCS rates. The transmit beam index is an index that will show what the beam steering is configured for or automatically configured for the wave tunnels. The wave tunnels can be plus or minus 45 degrees from each other. If the transmit index and receive index were anywhere between 1 and 32, this would indicate that the horizontal rotation was being negative down to 45 degrees. A transmit beam index of 32 or 31 would indicate 0. The wave tunnels would be in direct line of sight with each other, also called bore sight. And anywhere between 32 and 62 would indicate up to a plus 45 degrees of horizontal rotation. Down below, you can see the modem temperature and the radio temperature. These are pretty much normal for the wave tunnels. For link traffic, this is a tool that can be used when setting up the network for a proof of concept. If you don't have a traffic generator or something like that, we use an internal traffic generator. This is something that you would not want to use on a live network because it does use CPU cycles for the wave tunnels. But in this case, I have a route and I could set up the downstream. I can either do that receive or transmit. We'll do it receive and set it up for 3 minutes. And then we'll start the traffic. And this will start generating receive traffic from the leaf to the root node. And once this refreshes, you'll be able to see on the lower graph, you'll be able to start to see traffic being generated. So once that traffic pops up here, then we'll be able to take a look and see really how much traffic is being sent from one node to the other. And if I click on this, I can see I'm about 1.5 gigabits per second, which is kind of what I expect with this type of a setup. So we'll go ahead and stop that. Under Ethernet ports, if I click on traffic, I can see the different stats for the different ports that are on my wave tunnel, ports 1 through 4. For this setup, I have port number 2 connected to my backhaul, and you can see that bytes received, bytes sent, packets received, packets sent are all indicated there. The drop counts, the error counts, I would use more for troubleshooting. If I had packet overflows or maybe there was an issue with my cabling, is defective cabling, I might see some stats generated. For device status, I can click on General, and this shows me information that I've configured on this device. It's a root, the description of the device. I'm located in Eagle, Idaho. That is set. My MAC address, different other settings in here. My country code is the US and the firmware version, IP address, and uptime for this network. Under hardware, you can see all of the gauge information, the CPU, memory, and disk and temperature. And under management, I am connected with my Android, and you can see my IP address that the WaveTunnel gave to me when I was connecting to it, MAC address, and the signal strength. Over here on the bottom right, if I click on this little icon, I can see a diagram of my network, and that's going to show the connection, whether it's connected, disconnected, or encrypted. And I just have 2 nodes out here. If I had more nodes, then it would show the additional nodes. So that's the monitoring section of the mobile app. Next, we will move on to settings. The settings portion of the Airvine mobile app is where all the configuration of the nodes is done. We see here WaveTunnel settings, Ethernet port settings, device settings, and system operations. So if I click on node, then I'll be able to see what I have already configured on here. I set the network ID to VineNet, and my node type and node label are both set to root. If I were connected to my leaf, then both of these would be set to VineNet and leaf. For upstream, on the leaf, I have my status as enabled and my downstream is disabled. You can see the connection there. If I connect it over to my root, then you can see that the status for my upstream is disabled. And for my downstream, it is enabled. I'm on channel 1. I could set that to anywhere between 1 and 6. My encryption is set to disable. These are things that I can set up during the initial process or through the initial wizard. I can set these things up later on. If I had a node that were to fail and I needed to RMA a unit, then I could use the insert a node function to add a node to my network somewhere in between my first and my last node. I could even expand out a network if I wanted to do it through this process. When you have more than 3 or 4 nodes in a network, typically you would have more than 4, you can create a ring out of that network. And this is the place that you would go and you would connect the very first and the very last of these nodes together. If I clicked on close here, then it would close this ring, and then I would have that redundant ring architecture. From the Ethernet port setting, if I click on management, then I could go in and see how this node was set up during the initial configuration through the wizard. And when I set this one up, I set it up as, instead of DHCP, I set it up for static, gave it a static IP address. I didn't set the DNS in here. I could have done that. And for management VLAN in my network, I didn't enable it, but this is a place that if I wanted to enable that now, I could set that up. For my lag, and my lag is disabled in this case. If I enabled it, we have 3 settings in here. You could do an active backup. So they say that I had port number 1 and port number 2 connected to an Ethernet switch, and I had port number 1 go down. Then the traffic would automatically fail over port number 2. That's not typically done. Usually either a static or more likely an 802.3 AD link aggregation control protocol lag is set up. And if I set these up, this would be a place that I'd set up ports 1, 2, maybe even all 4 ports dedicated to a lag back to an Ethernet switch. The ports themselves, I can either enable or disable from the Ethernet port settings. And QoS allows me to set none, DSCP, or COS. Port mirroring as needed. We can capture ports 1 through 4. We could mirror that information over to ports 1 through 4. Typically, that's going to be for some troubleshooting purposes. Under device settings, under general, we have what was configured. My location is Eagle, country code set to US, and I can update these. If I had a WaveTunnel that was shipped in the United States, then I could not change that country code. Under the network time protocol, these are set by default for you. If you have your own network time protocol server, then you could change these over to something that is customized, configurable for your network. Syslog, enable that, and you can set the IP address and protocol port number for your syslog server. And for Wi-Fi, this is going to be the 2.4 wireless interface that is used to manage, and that's what I'm using right now to manage my WaveTunnels. My SSID is in here. I could change that as needed. Passphrase this is the default passphrase, the Airvine bang or Airvine exclamation point. We have this set to WPA2, channels auto, and the management is 192.168.3.0. All of these could be updated from this screen. And under system operations, if I wanted to update my password, I could do that. Either reboot or factory reset the WaveTunnel is all possible from there. And once again, this icon in the lower right just gives me my network diagram. So that's everything under the device settings. Next, we'll move over to the events and give a brief description of the events tab. In the events tab for the Airvine mobile app, you will notice there are different severity of notices, warnings, and informational messages. The circle with the eye would indicate informational. This means that we see things like a user, an admin logged in or logged out successfully. If we see something that is a notice, this would be indicated by a triangle with an exclamation inside of it. This would mean something like my password failed or I logged in using a wrong username and password. And this is probably the case here. I'll scroll down and I think I have one down here somewhere. In this case, I more than likely unplugged one of my wave tunnels and plugged it back in. So I had a downstream tunnel disconnect. And so you can see this is a warning or a potential issue log that was sent out. And so through this events tab, you can see all of the different warning notices and informational logs that are sent. And these can be either internal or if I did have a syslog set up, then it would send them to my syslog server. That concludes this section on the Airvine mobile app. Thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact one of our sales or systems engineers for additional information. Thanks again and have a great day.